Hi friends, Roanne here. We're still continuing our series on Huwag maging dayuhan sa sarili mong bayan. Another one is to learn the language. Of course, it's not your fault if you weren't taught how to speak Tagalog or another dialect, but equally important to learning the language is learning the cultural, not just the language, but the cultural meaning. So, in this series, we'll talk about how language is going to give you a whole cultural experience. So, if you don't know the language, you could start now, and it's not your fault. Second, why we continue to misinterpret each other, especially in our Filipino relationships. And finally, why learning language is one key to expanding your worldview.
So, number one, first of all, if you speak another language, you know that there are many words that are not directly translatable in the English language. For instance, in the Filipino Tagalog language, the words like tampo, maktol, these are what I call Pinoy love languages. And if you don't know, yeah, we have five Pinoy love languages ebook. I'll link it below. But what that tells you is that we have a different orientation of the world. I want to say that Filipinos in general are more, they talk with their bodies, so very somatic. And as you know, in the Western world, mainly America and Canada, we are very verbal, very linear. So even when children are very young, we teach our children, and rightfully so, to use their words. So very different orientation. Para hindi maging banyaga or a tourist, a foreigner in your own land, learn not just the words, but also what they mean. One of the beautiful things about the Filipino culture, but also is a point of contention, is that we are bilingual. So we are able to compete with the globalization. We have many kababayans who are telemarketeers. I think that's great. But part of the confusion of being bilingual is just because your partner, your mom speaks another language, let's say English, you think you might understand what they are saying, the same words, but actually you might not need a cultural or language interpreter, but instead a cultural interpreter. So, second why, why we continue to misinterpret each other. So maybe this is piggybacking on the first one, because meanings mean everything. I always teach this in with my therapy clients, and if you've also heard me do presentations, because for instance, if I say candle or candila, you might think of, what do you think of? You might think of a spa. If someone just passed away, you might think of your loved one that just passed away. But interestingly, if you were born in the era I was born and raised in the Philippines, some of my people in my same era would say brown out or power outage, because during that time we have almost like a regular power outage. So if you were born same era, same location. So you see, a candle or candila can mean so many different things. And when we are talking and having a conversation in our Filipino homes, I have given you this example where the Filipino mom might be going like this, and she's so, you know, wiping her pawis, and she told her son, "It's very hot in here." And she's very empathic about it. And then finally, when the son did hear mom, he goes, "Yeah, mom, I'm just gonna get some fresh air outside." And she's just rolled her eyes, because what she meant to say to the son is turn on the fan. And the son, later on, when they were in conversation, the son goes, why didn't you just tell me? I would be happy to do so. To which the Filipino mother will respond, I did. Did you not see this? Did you not see the powers that's trickling down under my eyebrows? And that's why we keep misinterpreting each other. We are just basically focusing on the word, but we are not thinking about what it actually means to the other person, but we're going by our own meaning. So it's almost like you're just using a Webster dictionary. You might need to expand and have different dictionaries. So That's the second one. The third one, again, piggybacking, these are all kind of woven together, is that learning a language para hindi maging dayuhan sa sariling bayan. And it's never too late to learn a language, especially the meaning. So I'm underlining, emphasizing the meaning is going to expand your worldview. I kind of mentioned that the first part, but we often hear about colonization, how Filipinos have been influenced by colonization, but mainly talking about the past. And I am not going to discount that there is, of course, we're influenced with 300 plus years, plus the Americans, about 50 years that we were colonized. Not talking about how the Arabs visited us, the Chinese. There's so many different influences, and this is true for a lot of different parts of land across the world. Now, we don't think about the colonized mind today is actually, in my mind, being exposed to Western media. Because not just the content, but the format of the content. Filipinos need a lot more context when they're talking. They might do this with their hands. When they're laughing, they're kind of moving back and forth. And when you're using just simply social media to communicate, you're absorbing people's ideas, it lacks context because it has very minimal characters. To my mind, we should be more concerned about how that's colonizing our minds right now, how we are not original with the way we process and how we become critical of ideas. This is why when I observe, even in academia, especially here in America, I find that we're diverse by our looks, but our ideas are not as diverse. We may not be aware because there are many people behind these power media that the content that is to me what is probably colonizing our minds in the present. So is to actually detox from those westernized platform. There's a book that I would recommend. It's called The Shallows, and how we're thinking more shallow, based on not just the content, but the platform that we use. So I hope that's been helpful. This is Roanne Digia Samuels, a licensed psychotherapist here in California. I hope you're doing well. Visit calamansijuice.com. Ingat!